recording now. And as soon as we see his name pop up into the conference thing, the turbo meeting, we can get started. That way he can see what's going on as well.
Okay, I just sent him the information and he's trying to connect. I believe he's downloading the software.
Yeah, it looks like he's connecting now. Okay, so I'm going to switch to my side here. And you guys were doing the BobART course, correct? Okay. So we're going to start with just the 2D vectorization. Now, everything that we do within BobART is going to be on this BobART tab, just in the BobART Manager. It's right next to your cam tree, your cat tree. It's in that same window. And we have our different little selections here. There's a BobART Manager tab here. There's my mouse go. And we have images where we can load an image, and then there's the embossed model section here. We're going to look at the images for right now, and we're going to go to an image, right-click the images, load an image, and we're going to go to image here that I found online that'll work for this example. And it's just the black and white image to give us a nice vectorization. So now if I right-click this image, the name of it, we have all these different options here. So we can change the origin, we can vectorize, we can delete it, blank and unblank. Now you can also, when you have it here, if you hit the I key on the keyboard, it'll actually turn off your image and turn it back on, which will come in handy for a little bit later. But if we right-click it brings us to the vectorized window. Now we have this threshold value that we can change the clarity of the image. If we turn it all the way down, we're going to get less of an image broken up throughout this geometry here. And if we have it all the way up, we get more. Each image has a different level that you'd be using. And we just kind of move this little value up and down until we get the right kind of image. And I think around 1 is good. If you have multiple colors, we'll get into that in a minute when we look at the next example, but you can also vectorize it. Click OK here. We actually have 2D geometry now that we can see. So if I hit the I key on the keyboard, that's that geometry, or that image, and now we have geometry. Play with do things with. All that making sense so far?
Yeah.
Go to our BobART tab, and we're going to load a different image. Now this image is a little bit different because it's got a lot of colors to it. I had a customer once that wanted to just show an example, and this is the example that they had come up with for vectorization. So if we right-click this to vectorize it, we get the same thing. We can change the threshold value here. That's just black and white. Now that may work in some cases, or you can do the multicolored strategy, where you pick your colors that you want to actually pick the vectorize from. So if we went through and picked all, the pinks and the colors just to get around the bunny there, pick a few of those colors, and then click OK, you get a lot of geometry we don't need in kind of sense, because you pick everything. So if you want to go ahead and undo that, and in this case, sometimes tracing out your geometry is at all. If each one I can result. Interpolate upwards a little bit quicker than that last one. Points you have, sometimes it's easier to control what you're tracing. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to go through and modify some of that here in a second.
So the idea is tracing the whole image from outside and inside, or just outside?
It doesn't matter either way. It depends on what you really want to get out of it. Seems like something. It's just so you can get an outline so that you can work with it. Once you start getting your image, you can go in and modify some of these complicated things. But the spline allows you to go through and kind of quickly pick points to create your image so that you have something you can actually machine. You know, the vectorization's really, 2D machining, and then, you can also emboss from them. So you can get 3D geometries that you emboss from these vectorized little pieces. I'm going to intersect these so we can trim them out. And I'll hit spacebar to verify. And now if we turn off our image, we have geometry that we can kind of use. Now, I'm not sure what's going on, why my mouse is just picking points. But now if we go up and go to Utilities and Explode, you can explode this to arcs and just select everything. Just window pick this whole thing and right-click and OK. And now we have little segments that we can then modify. So go through here. You guys shouldn't have access to be able to move my mouse, but it looks that way. And then we can take this guy and delete that out. Do a line join to repair these. And now when we bring back the image, we can go in and clean up areas that we need to. Most of it is pretty good going around, but if we needed to, let's say we go up to Utilities and Deform. Drag, Corner, and Deform are the ones that really allow you to modify what you already have. So we can go in and bring these down a little bit and go up to Drag Corner. Pick that corner and bring it down. Do Deform on this, bring it up a little bit. But swapping between these two allow you to modify what you have to match what you're trying to get. And when you're all done going around your geometry, you have something you can machine, you can emboss, you can make something of it. Did you guys have any questions so far? Anything you want to see again?
No, we are fine.
Okay.
Thank you. So for the internal lines, we need to do exactly the same.
Yeah. For the internal lines on something like this, you would do the same. So if you wanted to get this section all in here, you would do the same thing. Now, we're going to want to use a mix of doing a sketch. We're going to just sketch a line across here. Maybe do a sketch here in all the straight areas.
Mm-hmm.
So anything internal you did want to machine out, you can go ahead and sketch any of those. And let's see here. We can even do part of his face. Then we can go up to spline again. Interpolated usually works the best. So we can go around the areas that we've missed. Now you can snap to points you already have by holding the Shift key and picking an area.
So the interpolation has any visibility on the background image that you are tracing, or it's just drawing the lines and the arcs?
It's just drawing the lines and arcs. That's all I'm doing. It doesn't even look at the drawing. So I'm actually going through and tracing everything that we have here. And you can keep turning off the geometry, turning it back on to see where you're at. Go up to here and finish this guy out. And again, none of it has to be perfect because you can go back in with your drag and deform to get exactly what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You're essentially just tracing over the image that's on the screen. And all those that look kind of funky, as soon as we explode that, we can either go up to explode here or under utilities, select the whole thing as arcs, and it allows us to go through and trim off areas that we don't need. You wouldn't machine stuff inside of there. Things like that you can go through and trim some of this stuff out. It allows you to kind of go through and modify your image as you go. Now, if I go back to the other one, that's mostly everything for tracing your image. There's some images you're just not going to be able to do a vectorization of and get a nice clean image. But when you do have images that you can get a nice clean image from, then you can use this for other things. You can go into the embossing. So we can even go and just do an emboss regular. And this sets up our stock for the emboss. So we actually want this to be 2, 3, 4, 5, let's say 6 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 by 6. And it'll automatically put a resolution here. We can change that resolution if we want. I'm just going to leave it the 135. And you can change the origin of it. Right now, the origin of the emboss is going to come from this center point outward. You can also do a wrap from here. So if you have a fourth axis, you can do a wrap. And we can change the color of the actual stock for this. Let's go with that color there. And then we have our different types of embosses here. So now we can do that it's either going to emboss as a convex arc, which we have here, and all of these display in this little window, whether it's a line, concave arc, you can do ellipses, convex and concave, spline, which you can change these data points to change the type of emboss you're going to get. So you can change these on the screen, and that updates the values. And we'll just do a simple convex arc, and we'll do it real small here. Start angle is 0, end angle is 90 degrees, and that's all represented right here in this little graph. Going to keep the Z scale at 1 and the XY scale at 1. You can change that scale factor in this, and that'll change your geometry as well. And we can also change the color of the embossment, so it'll be slightly different than your actual stock. So let's go ahead and change this to like this orange here. And we hit OK. Now we don't see anything yet. We just see our 2D geometry on the stock material that we have. And we have little red X's here. Just like we would in the cam tree, we have little red X's on things that need to be addressed. So if we right click and hit regenerate on emboss model, should be giving us an emboss here. Oh, I didn't pick my geometry. So if we hit the E key, that'll get rid of the embossment. Just like the I key gets rid of your image, the E key gets rid of your emboss. So now if we select, let's just select one of these. Reselect, just like in the cam tree, you go up and select your geometry, and then regenerate from there. And if we bring back our embossment, we get our emboss from that image. Now we can go in here and modify the parameters of that, so we can change it to a line. I'll do the same height. And we can even change the slope angle here. We'll leave it at 45. Generate that now, and that gives us line moves instead, where it embosses as a line. Now in some of these, if we were to take an image that, let's see if I have another image here. I had one the other day that worked really well. Actually, if we go to emboss model, we can go emboss from image. So now I'm actually going to take that Energizer bunny that we were just playing with, and we're going to pick that for our emboss. And we'll leave the model color there. This automatically puts in the model size, so it puts in the size of the actual image. And we can even change the origin just like we could before. Click OK. Now then we get into our application, whether we're going to add, subtract, merge high, merge low. We'll just start with an add, and then we can modify that to show you guys the differences. And we're going to keep the aspect ratio that's on this geometry already. And we're going to change the color of the actual emboss, so we'll see a little difference here. Click OK. And then that's what gets embossed from that Energizer image. So you can emboss straight from that image, although some of it's not so clear. So what I'm going to do, there's actually a smoothing option that we have. If we just draw a rectangle, and it's 2 by 2, let's make it 2.5 by 2.5. And we'll set it at the bottom left. So our geometry here that we have underneath it all is encompassing the whole entire embossed stock. So now if we right-click Emboss Model, we can go down to Smooth. Now this smoothing option, you can smooth the whole model. Smoothing window size, you really shouldn't have to mess with any of these settings here. Select OK, and now pick our geometry we want to smooth from. So that's the geometry we want to use. Verify that, and then go up and regenerate. And now that smooths out our image, so it's a little bit cleaner for machining. So if you wanted to get a nice 3D image out of that on a solid, smoothing can give you a little bit of a better outcome. So if we suppress that and regenerate, that's what it used to look like. Unsuppress and bring it back. That's what it looks like with the smoothing. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to add another emboss regular. And we'll change this to an ellipse here. Now the ellipse, you can change the major and minor axis. So this changes both values if you drag this around. so you can really change your ellipse that you're getting. But we'll use the default 1/2 inch and 100 thou for minor axis. Go in and pick our geometry. We can hit the E key on the keyboard to get rid of the embossment that's there. Reselect our geometry, and let's just pick some of that model. We're not going to pick the inside. Right-click OK to verify it, and then if we go to regenerate and bring back our embossment, that gives us a different type of emboss. So it's just a small little radius on there instead of the sharp angles that we have on the other. So depending on what you select, depending on the type of embossment you're doing, changes all of that. And if we go back to this guy here, we can even go in and edit. And let's say we're going to subtract. Okay, that. Regenerate. And when we subtract, it's taking away the embossment. So it's going below the surface there. If we flip it over, it almost looks like the other one, just a mirrored image. We go in here and edit this and do merge high. Should give us essentially the same result as the add. And then the merge low. Yeah. And there's nothing to merge with, so it's now the merge low, merge high. If we go back to this guy here, we can add. We can go in and add another emboss. Do a concave ellipse, and we're going to merge high. And we're going to pick the inside of this geometry here. Okay, so we need to actually go in and do a merge low. And that gives us a little merge based on the geometries that we selected. Now, some of these you really have to play around with the actual values. We can go in here and edit this and do a subtract. And that'll give us just the subtraction there. You could also go in and add, and it'll add a little bit to what we have. So if we actually change this to an arc, we're going to go to add. It'll just add a big section onto the top of that. So each one of these gives you a very, very different result on your geometry. Do you guys have any questions or anything so far? Or? You still there?
Yep, I'm here. I was just on mute. Yeah,
okay.
We are fine. Everything's fine. Good.
Okay. Just making sure. Okay, so now we can go in and take, all right, where was it? Okay, something happened to this one. So we're going to close that window. We're going to redo that one. We're going to do the same emboss from image. Yeah, let's add. Now we'll go ahead and add our smoothing here. Might not be big enough. No, that should be fine. Okay. So once we have something like this, then we can go into our cam tree and actually set up a new cam job. So we'll just do a 3-axis milling job. Set up our stock wizard. We'll just do a rectangular just to fit the area that we have. Then we'll leave the origin down at the bottom there. Actually, we'll move the origin to the top. Now, with the BobART, you get the mill V-carve. The V-carve is just for BobART, and that looks at the embossments, that looks at what you have. Select our geometry. Actually, cancel. I apologize. The V-carve is the toolpath that you get with BobART. Now, when you're machining like a 3D emboss like this, we're just going to use the basic mill 3-axis. And when you select your geometry, it's actually the whole surface there. BobART actually creates an STL file, and that's what it's reading. So it's like a wireframe mesh. And we'll just do like a Z-level rough and do like an advanced planer on here as well. And the roughing cycle will have just pretty basic here, and I'll make this a much smaller tool. Just so we can go through and get the detail. We'll use 3D extents just to go outside. We'll do a follow, compute. Now, it's not going to look great because I probably need a little more step over there. We'll go ahead and simulate that. Looks like it didn't do one of them.
Yeah, it's just one.
Yeah, should have done the roughing on that one too, but for whatever reason it didn't do the rough. Let's go ahead.
Well,
Yeah, that'll get a lot cleaner. Yeah, essentially, whenever you have your STL mesh face, your actual embossment, any of the regular 3-axis tool paths, you can go through, and then the finishing with the planar and equidistant things like that, you can go through and clean up and mill it out. Whereas the V-carve and and those options, I'll show you what those can do with. Those are for the 2D geometries that you get from BobART. You can go through and do little V-carve drawings and.
Mm-hmm. Actually, the roughing is not done. It's starting directly with the planer.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the roughing's not applying on there. It should be, but the planer is the only one listing. It's not the first thing that's weird happened this morning already on this. So when I went back to one of the other windows, my image was gone. So it's
maybe you have a virus or something.
no, being connected with Turbo Meeting at times can cause little anomalies. And once this is done, we can refine and. And the bit's probably still really big for what it is, but that's fine.
Yeah.
And then we can go in and hit refine, and that'll clean up some of the areas, give you a little better idea of what you're getting. Sometimes when you have higher detailed images that you're cutting out, the simulation will always look bad. That doesn't mean it's going to cut out bad. It just means that it graphically is not holding up.
Mm-hmm.
So refine is a big one when you're doing BobART embosses, things like that.
So the refining is actually trying to get the actual passes, or it's just refining the graph.
It refines the graphics on the simulation. So refining will, if you have something that you do a lot of passes on, sometimes things can look really kind of jumbled in simulation.
Mm-hmm.
And you should see a little bit of a difference. I don't know how much of a difference we'll see because that bit was awfully large for this. Once it kicks in, unless it already did, no, it's still working. Yeah, and if we zoom out a little bit, yeah, when you refine, it actually refines the section you're zoomed in on.
Mm-hmm.
So it just focuses all the graphics to that point. So sometimes zooming in really close to an area helps. It looks like it didn't help too much on this one. Like I said, the bit was awfully large for this.
Yeah.
But at least refining goes through and actually cleans up your simulation in the area you zoomed in on, so you can get a better idea of exactly what you're going to expect. Now, if I go back to this guy here, we can emboss from this. We can do all these features just like with any 2D image, but we also have the option to go in and do a V-carve. So if we do a new job, I'm just going to do another milling job, set up our stock here, do a rectangular stock, and machine origin's already set to the top of it. So now if we go in and do a mill V-carve, we'll select our geometry. We're just going to select all of it here. Hit next. And total depth, we're not going to go very deep. Let's just say 125. Then we're going to do a V-carve. Now there's two options here besides just the basic V-carve finishing. There's V-carve pocketing, which will actually do a flat end mill in the open areas to do the relief for the pocket. And then there's the V-carve finishing to finish out the rest. Now, if we just do a V-carve finish, that'll give us one result. And we'll just go with 1/4 inch tool, 90-degree angle. Now, there's different parameters on these. So you have your use V tool, which V tool step over, and then it already has the pocket depth that it knows it's going to. And there's the V tool depth of cut, the roughing step over. Roughing step over, we can even reduce that down. And then there's a cleanup step over. So your tool might not necessarily get in, especially with the pocket option added on. You may need to do multiple passes in the corners to get that. So usually I just cut that in half just to get a couple extra little passes in there. Now if we compute, we get one result for V-carve. So it's just carving out the center of this. So if we simulate this one, and depending on our geometry selection, for whatever reason I brought our BobART embossment in here. So let's get rid of that. Take a second to catch up. And this is what we get with the V-carve finish as the option. Now, a lot of guys, they want the V-carve look all the way through their part, and that gives you that look where you can go through and have your V-carve. Now, depending on your geometry selection, that'll depend on what it's going to cut, just like with our regular pocketing and profiling and all that. So if we blank this one out, I'm going to go up and do another V-carve. We'll do the same geometry selection. We'll do the same depth. Oops. And we're going to add the pocketing. And we're going to move it up. So it'll do the tapered pocketing first and then the finish. Now the pocketing is just going to use a flat end mill. You can add it as a V tool if you want, or so you just get the end mill rough or finish, so you can do it as a bull nose or a ball nose or a flat. And you set the parameters, so you can set your depth of cut. The whole entire pocket depth is already set. That's based on your feature page that you already have. So we can do that in 2 passes. So let's just do it in 1. That's not that much. And cutter width, the step over, I usually do 50% of the tool. And then it gets into the V tool. We'll use the same one we did the last time. Now the different options for this will change very little on the way it goes through when doing this style here. The pocketing parameters, because we're not doing a pocket with the V tool, we don't necessarily need this one. And then that's the V tool type of depth of cut. And we can set this as a little less of a roughing step over, which won't really come in handy because it won't really come into play because we're not roughing out with the V tool. And we'll reduce this in half for those corners. And these are all simple calculators, which I'm sure you guys are already aware, where you can go through and add and subtract and divide and multiply. So now this gives us a slightly different result. And I didn't, we're going to exit out of that. I didn't prevent the other one from posting. So then this gives us a little different result where it'll give us flat bottoms, and we probably need to have less than that little step over for those little tight corners. But that little step over value that I cut in half, that's what that gives us there. Now we can even do something even different. If you wanted to have those standing up in the center, if we add a rectangle on the outside, bottom left, and it's about get something in there that's a reasonable size. I can even okay, so now if we go in here, we're going to blank and do a post no on this one. Now that we have an outside profile, when we set up that V-carve, let's say we want to do that same pocket where it's flat, we select everything, including the outside. We'll just say that 125 again. Add our pocket, move that up. And all of our values are still here except for these, so we'll get that in there a little bit tighter on this one. Maybe a little smaller there as well, and compute. So now it's actually going to give us a different type of result, just like it would with pocketing. You know, it uses the same logic as pockets do. So this way you can really kind of go in and customize your actual geometry and what you're trying to get. So this will give you a stand-up in the center, whereas the other cuts the inside of this out. Now that little step over helped us out a little bit in here, but not a whole lot. We'd probably go in there a little bit tighter, but you know, those are just kind of the growing pains with playing with the V-carve, trying to get your tool right, getting in all the corners, getting it all nice and clean. Do you guys have any questions or anything, or?
Yeah, actually, we were hoping to more concentrate on the BobART from the idea of how to create 3D graphs and 3D stuff like imposed roses and stuff like that, just to compensate for what we already know. So from the machining perspective, we already know how to do the machining and what kind of bits and how to use the simulation stuff. Right. What we are missing is the BobART stuff, like if I have 2D graph, how can I come out with like, you know what I'm talking about, this kind of decoration that is using wood pieces and stuff like that, that is used in furniture and stuff?
Well, do you have any examples of what you're talking about, like some kind of graph or something that I can take a look at, or?
Yeah, I can send you some graphs.
Here, I can actually transfer to your side here, and then I can transfer some over if you have an example of one.
Yeah, I can show you the now you see my screen, or
Yeah, I can see your screen now.
okay. Something like that,
Oh, okay.
or this.
Okay. Yeah, and that a lot of that, we can get into some of that right now. And we'll probably get into a lot more of that in your next session.
Okay.
Because I know you guys were doing the course, and I've pretty much just kind of stuck to whatever the course has right now. Actually, we've gone through it pretty quickly. We went through pretty much the first 2 hours already.
Okay. And one more thing is we are trying to know as well is the turning stuff, how to create turning models, like when I'm going to use my fourth axis, which is a turn, and how to create the stuff, do it as a wrapping or unwrapping, or do it as a 3D model. And so what I was informed when I was purchasing the software, that it is doable by the BobART, and they showed me actually how to do it. So this also we would like to be included within. What I'm trying to do is to make sure that we are going to cover these stuff, because this is the most important thing for us.
Okay. Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem at all. Here, let me transfer back over to my side.
Okay.
And let's see what we got here. Now, with the turning and stuff like that, let's go back over to BobART. We can go in and edit this one here. Let me get rid of some of this stuff here. Blank that out. Smooth this out again. Yeah, without that box out there. No, that'll be fine for right now. We can go in here and edit. Let's see here. What do we need to edit to get that? Modify stock. Okay. So now we can do this as a wrapped model. Now, because of the size of it, it'll automatically give you the cylinder size. Now, if you have a larger cylinder, we can enter that in here. So let's actually just say it's a 3-inch cylinder. Axis origin is 0, 0, 0. And we're going to go around the x-axis. Okay, so this should be good. So now it sets that as an actual wrap. So now our image is actually as a wrap, a 3-inch wrapped emboss. Now you can also take, we can undo, that wrapping to get it back to where it was. We can also add a solid. Let's say we add a solid here. Make it really small. So I'm going to take this solid and rotate it down. Let's say 15 degrees in Y. And we're going to translate it down just a little bit in X, just to be underneath. So it doesn't have to be perfect, just something underneath the emboss there. So now we can actually go in here, emboss from surface to solid. All of this should be fine. So now we pick our geometry. I'm just going to pick that one face and then regenerate. So now it actually put our embossment on that angle, on that slope. Now we can even go in here and edit our stock and change it down in Z, -2 inches or so. Oops, way too much. Yeah, just so it's down kind of to the surface, but you can have your embossment match your surface that you have. But it sounds like the wrapping is mostly what you're looking for with like the decorative stuff like that. So let me see.
Yeah, the columns,
Yeah.
How to create a decorative columns.
Let me see what I can find here, because I know we have. Okay, so I have the DXF clip art stuff here, so let me close that and reopen it. I've been opening new windows and closing them, and it's causing issues. I'm going to put you on hold 1 second. I'm going to grab the BobART clip art book so I can see which ones are which here. Hold on one moment.
Okay, sure.
Okay, you there?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. I've got to have a nice design in here. Okay. Okay, so this is just a floral pattern that we have from our BobART, or our clip art, DXF clip art book, or CDs really. So we can go in and take this into BobART and actually put this wrap. Now, you guys know how to make stuff as a wrap already. Taking this kind of geometry as is now.
Okay.
No, just a question. Do you guys know how to do that already, or to use
the wrapping?
Uh-huh.
The simple wrapping, yes, but I prefer to go through it if we can do that. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a couple, you can do a wrap with this from within our CAD. You can go in and add a wrapping group to your machining job and make this your wrapping group so that it'll machine on a cylinder.
Okay.
And then you could also go into BobART and emboss from here. So we can do a wrapped model, say a 2-inch wrap. We'll just set all that to 0. And actually, and we'll do the convex arc, and we'll just do a smaller radius on there. So once that's there, we actually get the wrap geometry as our embossment stock. So we can go in there and modify that from there. It looks a little small, so let's change that to 4. A little better, but and the model size is 8. So that gives us a little bit more of what we actually have. So we can select our geometry that we want to actually emboss. Now we can even do this in sections. We don't have to do this all as one piece, but this one's simple enough. We can do it as one piece. And once we regenerate this, we get our embossment on the model here. Now let's go ahead and modify our stock a little further. So that gives our geometry on that embossment there that now we can machine out. And now we can bring this into our cam tree and actually do our 4th axis on it. Set up our stock, do cylindrical, go around the x-axis. And we'll oversize it a little bit. And we can go in with our rotary. Probably need to have our stock material go all the way around, but we'll see what happens. We'll do a round, we'll do a spiral. Just something simple here. Do a small step over. The bit's probably too big for that, but it's 1/2 inch. It's too big for those little areas there, but should go over it pretty well. Spiral is kind of a finish pass, so. But yeah, really all you have to do to change anything you're doing in BobART to a wrap is just to turn on the wrapping in your your BobART stock wizard.
I remember that we were discussing once with one of the technical team in BobCAD. They were planning like the cylinder on the 2D plans or planes and trying to locate the cross sections and doing a kind of mapping of what is going to happen on the cylinder to what is going to happen on the 2D, stuff like that. So that was done using the BobART. That was actually the first presentation that I got for BobART.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do with BobART. This is a kind of a simplified. Let me go ahead and just cancel this. That's kind of a simplified how you can get it to a fourth axis. Now,
Okay.
and it sounds like what somebody was showing you was how to just make a wrapping group from a 2D geometry. Is that what they were doing? Were they just taking like this 2D geometry and turning it into a tool path that just goes around the cylinder?
Yeah, almost. It's a kind of mapping what is going to be located on the cylinder. So you have a 2D frame, like a rectangle presenting the cylinder face, and then they are trying to locate the places that is going to be have the location of the I cannot describe exactly what they were doing, but
right. That's fine. I think I kind of understand. I think I get kind of what they were doing. It sounds like what they did was they added a wrapping group, and then they went in and did a mill 2 axis. So with that, let's just go ahead and select all this geometry, and we'll do
okay.
We'll do something small there. Do a pocket. Pick a small tool. Oops. Yeah, it sounds like they were doing a wrapping group, but I'm not sure. Because this would be kind of a wrap. This is just taking the 2D geometry, and it lays it out to where that it would wrap around your cylinder. Oh, I didn't.
Okay.
What was the diameter on that? Let's say 4. I might have the wrong diameter put in there, but I didn't really set that up very well. So I was taking, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's like 8. Okay. I don't want it around the geometry. Okay. So now this needs to be about, say, 8 inches that way, 8 inches the other way. What is this? It changed everything. I don't know why it changed everything.
Oh, I don't know.
That's really weird. Okay. Next. Wrapping group. Edit this. Wrapping diameter is 8. top of feature should be, it's, okay. Should be 4 inches to get up there. See if this turned out right. I don't think it did. No, it's still going in the inside.
It's still working inside, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's going in the inside right now. That's really odd.
I believe this is related to the preprocessor. Maybe the diameter that we are taking is bigger than the maximum machine possible working dimensions.
No, the machine that's in here is huge, limits travels. I think yeah, it's in with the wrapping group settings. I just got to remember which. Yeah, it's closer.
Yeah.
Is it -4? Trying to remember exactly how that all sets up. It's been a while since I've done the route. That's not in there. Oh, maybe. Yep. Interesting.
No, this is a machine settings.
No, the machines that we have default will do anything.
Yeah, but the location of the cutting head is very low.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with these machines. The actual, if I turn the machine on, we have these access controls. These are the limits on the machine with the Machine Sim Pro.
Okay.
So, and actually, it's on the opposite side of the rotary, but there's their X travel,
Yeah.
the Y travel, and the Z travel. So the Z has quite a bit of travel on there, and the A is unlimited. I can go in and edit the direction. If I turn the tool back on, the tool is actually way above.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's way above the part. I don't think it should be 2, but that doesn't sound right at all. It's still doing the same thing.
It's still much higher.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. Try setting that back to 0. In the past, that hasn't been 0, but there we go. So then it'll go through and pocket out that little area in a wrap. Now, just the part focus. Speed that guy up. Yeah, you can do it through a wrapping group, like so. Once you get your geometry, whether you get it from, somebody sending you a DXF drawing or something, or you can bring it in from an image in BobART. Because it sounds like that's really what you're going to do, is like bring in images into BobART and then put them on your rotary, right?
Yeah, not always. Sometimes what we are trying to reach with the Bobcat or with the BobART is to get the 2D and convert it to 3D and then turn it into the wrapping stuff and do it on columns and rods and stuff like that. The other thing is to have our own 3D library that's already created and put it on a column. So sometimes we are going to start from a 2D, and some other times we are going to start from a 3D.
Right. Well, and like this image here, let me actually copy this image into another window here. We can take this one, bring this in here. Now you can even take like what we had already with, if you're going to put stuff on like a column, maybe not be something that's completely symmetrical. It might, or not symmetrical, but it might not be completely like a cylinder. You can go in and create a geometry. Like I was showing you, you put stuff to a face. Well, let's just say we have a giant sphere. That's just 12. Just bring that down and bring that over an X. And bring it over halfway. So now we have a sphere that you can actually put that onto, within the BobART. We already have our 2D geometry, so we can emboss to surface to solid, but we need to do an emboss regular first. So it'll do our stocks, about 8 by 8 on this one. We'll do convex arc. It needs to be a little bit bigger. Go and select our geometry here. So now we have our embossment, and then we can go in and go to the emboss from surface solid. And you can actually use the surface position if you need to put in a value, which we might need to on this one, but we're going to add, select OK, select our geometry, and then we just go and regenerate. Now, way up top, and it's off a little bit, so we need to actually go in and edit. Say the surface position is, let's see here. So then that put it on a cylinder that we can move this around. So if we go into the emboss model, the stock, we can reduce this. So we can move this over -6 and bring this down -12. I'll probably need to bring it down a little bit more. But then you can put this on your 3-axis machine or your rotary, and you have something on a nice curved surface that's not necessarily just a cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, you can also go in here and just do an emboss regular, and get a wrap out of it. So if we modify stock, we'll put this back to 0, and we'll just turn on a wrap. We'll do a full cylindrical wrap, and should be 8. No, it should be 12. And I think it's holding on to some of that other data in there. Let's see here. Nope, there we go. So now we have that ready for a wrap. Then you can add your cylinder. We can go into our cam tree, add a new job, stock wizard, set up a cylindrical stock of diameter of it was 8 inches, around X. And the origin should be around 0, 0, 0 on this one. May have to make that, I think it's 12. Yeah. Swap the X direction and make this a little bit longer there. So we're pretty much matching our stock size in BobART to the stock size in our cam tree, so that we have something we can machine. And it did it again. It made it small again. I don't know why it's doing that. Now, if you wanted to machine that out, we can just go back to BobART, edit what we have, and do a subtract. Change our values, whatever they need to be. Regenerate. And now it's subtracting into it rather than going in the outside. Now, really, you would probably use a wrapping group for something like this. It's much. I mean, this is simpler as far as getting it on a cylinder, but as far as machining it out, this will probably give you more issues. You could create a plane to index to machine it that way, but without simultaneous movement, you won't get it right. So let's go ahead and add a 4-axis rotary here. We'll do a round and zigzag. Yeah, I think the wrap is really going to be mostly the solution you're going to want to get. Now, if you already have a geometry that you need to unwrap, I know we have you guys have a training on Wednesday, was it, as well?
Yeah, that's right.
Wednesday I can have a couple of things to go over with doing an unwrap. Unfortunately, I don't have anything at the moment.
No problem. During the 4 hours, that's what we are trying to cover. So if we can make it on Wednesday, and by ending the training for the 4 hours, we will be covering this, we'll be satisfied.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'll have some stuff on Wednesday ready for that. Besides going over a little bit more of, the other things in BobART that you guys can use, but it sounds like the using wrapping and unwraps are mostly what you're going to be looking at. And actually, if you have any solid models that, like examples of things that you guys get that you're looking to do, send them over and I'll take a look and we can use that as part of our examples. We commonly do that with training. We commonly just look at just what people are getting for parts. So this one, it did a huge area because that's the stock area. We can just see what we're going to get with that. But I really think that the wrapping groups and the unwraps will be because the unwrap, you'll need that for when you have a solid model if you need to get a 2D geometry that then you can put on a cylinder. The wrapping is what you would need for actually machining it out, but the unwrap to get your 2D geometry to make it a simpler, better tool path. Because this one's nowhere near as nice as the wrapped version.
Yeah.
Even if we go in and refine this, it's nowhere near what we got with the other one. Yeah, and that's the refine on that one. Close that. Yeah, and this was the tool path you had on this one. And on the rotary, it's going to work back and forth. Rewind that.
Yeah. It's actually here it's doing a pocket, which is much cleaner. The other one is doing 3D cutting, so
doing like a contour around the whole thing, where this one's just focusing on that little pocket. It really gives you a nicer finish. So I definitely think that the wrapping is more of what you're wanting to do, and the BobART can give you some, geometries if you get DXF files or anything like that. But I think more or less the BobART, if you get something that's like a really complex, large piece that the whole entire piece is getting cut out on the cylinder, then the BobART might be the way to go with, projecting it to a solid. It might give you a better result. But something small like this, wrapping group is probably the best way to go.
Okay. As for the samples, we have a collection from the VectorArt 3D.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know what is the format that you prefer, so I can send you a couple of them.
You can send them to actually the email that we sent for the confirmation.
Yep.
You can reply to that with any file.
So send it to Jennifer.
Yeah, Jennifer, the support at Bobcat. It'll go right to me. The ticket's in my name now, so
okay.
You can even put attention to Andrew, and I'll get it.
Okay. So what I mean is the format. What kind of format? Because I have it in, I believe, STL, CRV, 3D, something like that. So STL is fine.
Well, no, I'm sorry. Wow. No, if you have like a step file, an IGES file, one of those is fine. STL is a stereolithograph, so it's not really a. It has no edges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, STL models we don't really machine with too often. I mean, we can cut stuff out with STLs using a couple of methods, but with our multi-axis package and stuff like that, or three-axis toolpath, but not using BobART or Unwrap or anything like that. So it needs to be like a step or IGES file or something along those lines.
Okay, I'll check what I have and I'll send over to you.
Okay. Was there anything that you guys wanted to see again, or
No, we are fine. We're just trying to make sure that we are gonna cover the things that we discussed today in the coming session on Wednesday. So I'll be sending the graphs to you.
Okay. So we're going to go over some more of the wrapping and unwrapping geometry, and anything else that I see in BobART that'll help you with any of that, we'll include that in there as well.
Okay, and the imposing complex graphs like the ones I'm sending to you.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
That's no problem. Yeah. They some of those with BobART, getting. Well, I'll see what the image looks like before I get too ahead of myself. But
okay.
Yeah, some of those can get kind of intense with embossing. But yeah, whatever you have to send me, the better. That gives gets you the most out of it.
Okay. All right.
Now we do have another 30 minutes or so. If there's anything specific you guys wanted to see.
Nothing specific. If there is something on the curriculum that we should be seeing, let's go for it.
Okay. Let's see what else we have in here with the. Now with let's take this image for example. Let me bring it into a new window. With something like this, with BobART, we can go in and actually adjust some of this. So let's try to join a couple of these lines here. If we join a couple of these lines, we could actually go in and emboss some of these areas separately, giving us different depths, different heights, giving us a much higher detailed kind of image. So we go through and connect some of these here. Cancel. We can go in and emboss regular. It's 8 by 12, I believe. And we'll start with the convex ellipse. We'll do something small here. Now I'm going to select my geometry, but I'm not going to select these little areas up here. I'm going to select these as a different one. Make sure I go and get what I need. Now if I just emboss those, we get just that. Now there's something going on down in here. we're up there. Something's causing that, so we'll actually just remove and just pick this bottom one. Okay, so now we just have that. Now we can add another emboss regular, and we can do a merge high. And we'll do a convex arc. We'll do something a little bigger. And now we're just going to pick the area we didn't pick. That's not really attached. And that gives us a little more height just on that one area. Merges it with the current geometry that's there. Now, because I have those lines in there, I think that's causing the issue with that. So we can go in here and reselect, turn off our embossment here, deselect these areas. I don't think this will help, but we'll see. See what we get. Yeah, that freaked it out. Okay. So we can go in and actually add areas that merge with the old ones to create more of a relief for the actual embossment. Now you can do the same thing with these down here. You can add different heights, different levels to it. We can do another emboss regular and do convex ellipse. Let's say that. Do a concave arc. No, line. Line will be nice. And for the geometry, we can just select the outside. So it gives us 3 different embossments in the same image. So we can go through and add that to a machining job. Now you can even go in here and add that to a wrap, where you wouldn't be able to do really an unwrap with that because it's a 3D geometry. So we can go in and modify the stock, put in our full cylinder value as 12. So then that puts in our geometry on that cylinder as the 3 different levels, giving us a little bit more embossment out of it. Now we can even go in further and smooth that out. Let's throw a rectangle in there, add a smoothing. Select our geometry to use for the smoothing, regenerate, bring back the embossment, and then it smoothed out a lot of those edges. Gives you a nice little embossment there. Something you can go through a machine. And it's all three different levels that you wouldn't be able to really do with an unwrap. That's something you'd only really be able to do specifically with BobART. Is add a little bit more depth, a little bit something different on each one of those levels. You can even go in further and add more of those, say concave ellipse. And add these geometries in here. And then go in and take the geometry of those out of this one. And then change it a little bit. We got to go in here and edit this. Maybe do a subtract to get that to actually come out right here. So then it subtracts that section out of it. We can also change it to, like, let's say merge high. Kind of changes a little bit there. Merge low is probably what it should be, though. Disappeared. And it's the only one that looks somewhat right. And it's not that deep, so it's not showing very well. But you can go in and change the values of each one of these specifically. So if this one's just a little bit higher than the other one, we can say this one's a 1/4 inch, and we add it. And adds a little bit more to that one. Now that messes with this, so we need to probably change that to a merge high. It's still not merging with it. Interesting. Let's go ahead and do a line in between those. See how that handles. Really, a lot of this stuff is just playing around with it, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. Each geometry is different, so every geometry has their own little kind of quirks that go along with this. You can merge that high on the outside. Do a little subtract and see how that comes out. It just cuts that out of there. Little things you can go through and the merge should merge the two embossments together, and then we can go ahead and add that sculpting again. Doesn't look like it's smoothing out that section like it is the rest. it just kind of gives you a little different kind of flexibility with what you have. You can take up the geometries that you already have existing and break them up in different ways to get different results within the BobART. Splitting it off where you can get different sections to be at different heights can be utilized, especially with what you guys are doing. You'll need to do that, and I'm assuming we'll probably need to do a lot more of that with the files that you'll send me, because some of those types of caseworking stuff really needs different heights, different planes, different levels to them to really pop out. It can't all be the same height on everything. So yeah, learning how to single those out, getting those to where you can kind of modify it, play with it, and get these numbers, get this stuff to work with you. You'll be able to make some real nice stuff. Because as you see, every now and then, some of this stuff can be a little odd. Even if we go in here, just do an add, we can change it to a spline. We can really change the way it creates this embossment here. It changes that whole top section based on the spline that I just defined.
Yeah.
So you can really get kind of creative with it, play with it.
All right. Yeah.
And we're just about out of time. Did you guys have any questions, or want to make sure there's anything else that we need to know before the next session, or?
No, we are fine. As we agreed, I'll be sending over some samples.
Okay.
And till Wednesday.
All right. Yeah, and I'll take a look at those as soon as they come in, and I'll try to get a couple more. Yeah, once I see those, I'll get a couple more examples that kind of go along with what you guys are doing as well.
Okay.
And go over whatever you send me. 'Cause we have another 2 hours on Wednesday, I believe. So
yes.
Yeah, we should be able to cover everything you guys are looking for. With the wrapping and unwraps, and utilizing BobART as much as you can for what you're doing.
Okay. Perfect.
Or whenever you're needed to.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right. No problem. And I'll get this recording over to you probably late this afternoon or early tomorrow. It takes a little while to convert and transfer and all that kind of good stuff. So it'll be a little bit before you guys get the recording, but we'll also be doing recording on Wednesday too. So.
Okay. No problem.
All right.
Okay.
You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Same to you. Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.